You guys must be having it quiet there because it's pretty loud outside over here, Sumit. So
Yeah,
the
no, that's okay.
the headsets.
Oh, that's fine. I've got the same.
Let me actually take this opportunity. I'll quickly play the moderator just for a little while and introduce you to Mr. Sandeep Sengupta, who's actually from Calcutta, a mentor of mine. And this
nice.
this is Sumit Cooker from Sydney.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. And yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thanks. I thank you, all the panelists who have joined. I would request, I think Khan also joined, the founder of Iskan Robotics. Thanks for joining the session. I'm a part of this session also. My name is Shubhajit. So I would request my colleague Shatuki to please start this session by introducing all the guests and the panelists who have joined today. Thank you again. Please, Shatuki.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us in this festive season. And so let's start. In the digitized ecosystem, small and medium enterprises are at greater risk of suffering data breaches and cyber attacks. The number of data breaches in smaller businesses has risen significantly, while large enterprises have allocated a budget to pay the price to protect against potential security breaches. Small enterprises are reluctant to invest in cybersecurity. Thus, we have gathered here to discuss about cybersecurity challenges for small and medium enterprises and large enterprises, and to discuss about the solutions. Today, we are joined by eminent guests from the industry. We have Shifa Cyclewala and Rohit Gautam, the founders of Hackify Cybersecurity. We have Aparajita Banerjee, founder and CEO of Asplit Research and Advisory Services. We have Sandeep Sengupta. He is an ethical hacker and founder and director of ISOAH Data Securities Private Limited. And we have Sumit Cooker, the founder and CEO of Arasina. Also, we are joined by our host, the Karn. He is the founder of Eskan Robotics.
Yeah.
And
you want me to host?
I'm
not good with that.
I am also joined by my colleague Shubhajit Bhattacharya.
Thank you. So before we start, I would like to please invite Khan to this session, and would like to tell him that please give the introductory speech, and so that we can flag off the entire session. And we do have a surprise, I think, waiting for all the guests. So please do that.
Okay,
and
so
over to Khan.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Yeah, and why we are here, you might already know that. Like the reason behind we are doing about all these, events, regular basis. Because when I started my company, I felt like people was knowing about the data privacy and security, And I launched my search engine quite a long ago, about in 2019, and having the whole ecosystem product line. It was not easy for me to explain each and every single people like how you losing your privacy, how you losing your data online. But after seeing those things for the last 2 years, I decided like why not we can start having a event like this, and that might gonna help people understand what we are trying to solve here. Because see, we have already seen how all these people around the globe they are providing services in cybersecurity. Am I right here? But in terms of like what I believe is like if we have the product line, then we don't have to worry about services. That's what I'm trying to say. And the reason behind, just one second. And the reason behind like every single time when we talk to anyone, I feel like don't understand the difference between data privacy and security. You know what I'm trying to say? And when they don't understand the differences, it's really hard to sell my product technically, if I tell you. So, I mean, the way I saw it and the way I felt like we can start people aware about how we can solve their problem, and because writing everywhere it's not going to help that much if we're not going to come together and talk about this kind of situation that is going on around the globe, not just India. And as you might already know, we don't have any automotive company who can start with all this kind of product line, and that's why I thought like we can start with it. And that's how the reason behind like this whole session is started in a few weeks ago, you can say. And from last few weeks, what we have seen is like people have started understanding a little bit about the data privacy and security. So yeah, this is the whole reason behind why we have started technically. And maybe I can be in touch with lots of people. So that is also a reason if I tell you. So yeah, it's really I'm really grateful that you guys have joined today, and welcome you every single time whenever you have free and time in there. So thank you so much for joining. Yeah. And this,
Thank you.
yes.
Yeah, please come. If you could please unravel the first look of the magazine that we are planning, so
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the guests
sure,
can
sure, sure.
understand the.
Just give me 1 second, please. Am I audible, all right? Okay. So what you're seeing behind me, that's our magazine that we wanted to launch for a long time because of, as I said, the whole aspects about this, event, and our company is about to protect your privacy. And to make more people aware about like if you are not able to watch the videos or anything, or if you are not able to attend the event that we are doing every single time, then you might have the chance to read online, and you can understand how we can protect you. So we tried a initiative, a small initiative, as you can see, and let's see how people are reacting on it. So it's up to you guys how you making people understand how we can make sure that we can impact their privacy without losing it. So that's the first sneak peek, you can say that. That's how we wanted to just reveal to you guys in the event. That's the whole point. So I really welcome
Thank you, thank you,
and we can start with
yeah.
it. All right.
Yeah,
So
please
thank you.
Shatuki, call upon the first guest of this first speaker so that we can start the session.
I would now like to request Shifa Cyclewala ma'am to please tell your introductory words.
First of all, hi everyone. I am so excited to see the magazine, and we all are connected. I am Shifa Cyclewala from Hacktify Cybersecurity. Hacktify Cybersecurity is a startup. Me and Rohit Gautam is my partner. He is also connected into the meet. So the reason behind starting a startup Hacktify was to bridge a gap between the students who have just passed their academics versus what is the need of the industry. So we have figured out there are so many things to be done in between, and we try to bridge and fill the gap between both. So all the students who are who just complete their academics. We help them get the trainings, industry-oriented trainings in terms of cybersecurity, web application pen testing, mobile pen testing, network pen testing, and so on, so that they get a good job into the market. As well as we focus on bug bounty hunting. We teach them how they can start hunting vulnerabilities and submit it to the organizations responsibly, and can earn and help their financial needs as well. At the same time, they develop their skills into it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, ma'am. And what's your take on this, the subject which we are discussing today? So if you could please give us some insight on the particular subject.
Okay, so I feel there are so many challenges in terms of cybersecurity when we see from this perspective. So the challenge is not only limited to trainings and stuff that we are trying to fill out. There are certain challenges. I feel there's a mass challenge which I have personally discovered, and I feel is the lack of awareness among everyone. This is the main and the majority of challenge comes here, the lack of awareness about cybersecurity and understanding that what is actually required, because we are moving into the digital world so rapidly at the speed of light, but we are not aware about the things actually there in terms of cybercrime. I just have completed a cyber awareness session before this meet. So I would like to start with the awareness, the lack of awareness that we have, the lack of skilled professional into each of the stream. Nowadays, healthcare and so many different organizations who actually doesn't have anything to do with cybersecurity has now started taking things seriously and have started developing the internal cybersecurity team just to safeguard the data privacy of all the users that are there into the infrastructure. Somehow they are connected. So yeah, I feel we have a lot of lack in skilled professionals in terms of what I have felt, and to fill this gap, we have started creating some skilled professional at least, so that to come up with a solution maybe in near future. We recently covered 50,000 students. We have trained more than 50,000 individuals about cybersecurity, and this we take into our bucket, and we are trying to solve this, the lack of awareness, the lack of skilled professional we are trying to generate in near future.
Okay. And I have a question, another question for you. So as a startup who is working in this particular ecosystem or dealing with this kind of problem like cybersecurity, how do you a business do, or do you think that all these startups who are working in this particular ecosystem should go beyond business and also create awareness or bridge the gap? There is a massive gap of information, so that's why people are suffering. People don't know what to do, as you have said, and we are also trying to bridge that gap particularly. So what do you think? What should be the perspective?
uh, to every individual, whenever I go to any meet, my request to each and everyone, the information that you know that you have achieved through any medium, do not keep it to yourself. Try to spread it at least into a small network, so that it can reach to maximum of the people, because we are a community. We are going to grow only when each of us knows their own job, their own part, that what is there to be done in terms of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not new technology, but due to pandemic, the hype is been created so much, because everything that was there, private, accessible infrastructure, is also now public. All the internal applications, we are working from home, so everything that shouldn't be disclosed to public is also now disclosed. All the internal application, everything that one was supposed to use sitting inside the office, is now accessible. So this has expanded a huge scope for hackers and scammers. A lot of vulnerabilities has been disclosed in this era, like none else. So these are some things which has happened, and this has increased the scope so much. A lot of internal applications, the organization thought that they will not require to do the proper security test of those applications. just because they are going to use it for internal purpose. But now they are forced to host it because they need to run their business, right? For the business needs, for the growth of business, everything has been forced, and they have been forced to put it into online services and now accessible to public. So these are certain challenges, I think, which we have discovered specifically into this lockdown time. So these are certain things which everyone should work on and focus on.
If you really talk about awareness, if you really want to aware the community, then there are two particular segments which is facing the maximum problem or exposed to this kind of thing. One is the children's, and another is the mostly the senior citizen country. So how do you think you can really reach them and help them to understand this kind of things? Can we simplify, because this entire thing is like a jargon for most of the people. Technology is a jargon in India, in a country like India. So do you think is there a solution to that?
Okay, so for kids, I am attached to many non-profit organizations. One of them is InfoSec Kids. It's a part of InfoSec Girls Initiative, wherein we are trying to aware kids, at least the ones whose parents are professional in cybersecurity. We are trying to make some scripts, maybe in the form of jokes and poems, so that the other kids get influenced by such kids who are wearing the similar age kind of age group. So that makes more impact. Me teaching a kid is different. A kid telling something to the other kid is literally different. So that's making an impact, and a lot of new ways we are trying out. We have also partnered with ISAC, that is again a non-profit organization. So they have one thing, a series, a comic book known as Hanubot. So Hanubot is something which is a comic, a story kind of, wherein everything is picturized, wherein you can see that, okay, certain stories are there which you can easily relate to. Okay, so now you're going into the video games, so you may find out these certain messages from strangers. So how do you react, when you receive any messages from strangers? What are certain things, the good practices, the bad practices? At the end they have to solve certain quiz, so that we get to know that, okay, they are going into the right direction. So these are some small initiative. I do agree that it is very small compared to the scams that are happening all around, but still there's something that we have started and will continue to.
Thank you, ma'am. So it's wonderful getting all the answers from you. It's really helpful. I think it will help all the others and the people who are listening to it. So I will again ask my colleague Satuki to invite the next speaker of the session.
Thank you, ma'am. We now move on to Aparajita Banerjee, ma'am, to please share some light on this topic.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Satiki. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, hi, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank SCAN Robotics for inviting me to this webinar. And just a quick question at the outset, is there a particular time limit in terms of how long do we have, or is it just?
No. It's up to you. It's up to you.
No worries. So it's surely an important topic that requires more discussion from various perspectives. Astrid Research and Advisory Services deals more in international business and trade, and one of our core expertise or areas of concern is the knowledge exchange that we can pretty much gather from various international sources and organizations all over the world, specifically Australia, and that's how we have Mr. Cooker today over here as a panelist. So it is definitely a discussion worth all the debate and various perspectives. From where I see it, the main challenges SMEs face as the range and pace of cyber threats have significantly increased, not only over the era of the pandemic, but just before that as well, in the past couple of years. And that's more to do with insufficient internal resources. I know these sound of jargons, but let me explain that a little bit, which are otherwise required to deal and manage the threat landscape, which is continuously and constantly evolving. So when we use the term internal resources, and in this context, there's a insufficiency, it specifically includes less sophisticated security infrastructure, irrespective of what organization we're talking about, fewer trained cybersecurity employees and expertise, And also, importantly, in any organizational structure, a disconnect between management and IT departments. And all of these coupled together leads to a weak and sometimes non-existent cyber risk governance structure. So, and for the SMEs, especially startups, since we are, in this particular age where India is definitely evolving in that space as well, the budgetary constraints put them at the forefront of very complicated decisions, they're placed in a scenario where they have to think about whether it's worth investing in cybersecurity at all. Shifa was mentioning that earlier on as well. And then, would you rather have your budget go into marketing and branding for the sustainability of your organization, or would you actually put it into having a cybersecurity team at even the basic rungs? And then topping it all up, when you think that as a startup, is it even worth it at this stage? Because that's the sort of mentality that we're dealing with. Once we get to that level where we can sustain our profits and revenues, we'll think about having a dedicated cybersecurity team then. And then obviously, last but not the least, can we even afford it? So, however, that does not mean that SMEs are not aware of the risks, because I feel that SMEs and startups are aware of the financial and the reputation loss that could permanently sabotage their survival. But even then, this awareness doesn't seem to be driving the point across that you really need that clarity around having a dedicated cybersecurity approach. As we've discussed earlier on as well, that India is experiencing rapid digitization across various industries. Shifa mentioned healthcare, we've got retail, banking, the logistics sector that flows into maritime, transport, etc. And cyber threats have evolved into more nuanced challenges. So the common ones have been malicious malware, as we all know, ransomware, and phishing attacks. But in 2021, several organizations had to factor the digital transition and consider the impacts of cybersecurity challenges, like other evolving cybersecurity challenges and factors, such as complex human errors. Looking into the scenario of the pandemic, the stress that came about that, and obviously your cognitive abilities that may impact your decision making during, safeguarding or having a very, safe cybersecurity practice, risks of adopting cloud-based infrastructure, integration of artificial intelligence with cybersecurity, phishing, and we've mentioned spear phishing threats as well, sophisticated ransomware attacks, insider threats, automation and integration. That's a very important field and a factor in transport, maritime, these sort of areas. And then obviously the adoption of 5G networks. But of all the challenges mentioned in various reports in 2021, even now, this is where things are very interesting. The two most critical factors in safeguarding SMEs from cyber threats and attacks still remain. Number one, complex human errors and insider threats. So when we consider when we consider the cybersecurity management framework that we're all, I assume, aware of, where people, processes, and technologies work in unison to deliver a risk management compliance or protocol, it is still the people component that is compromised first. Excuse me. So for example, in a report by Verizon in 2019, 34% of cyber threats are due to employees' intentional or unintentional behavior. And 64% of insider threats came about through careless or vengeful employees or contractors, so third-party vendors, compromising the cybersecurity safe practices. Further on, and aligned to the same findings of Verizon in 2019, an ebook was published by Cyber Peace Foundation last year titled Cybersecurity for SMEs and Startups. And that clearly attributed negligence by employee and employee mobility as most common form of cybersecurity challenge. So it is well understood that India is one of the fastest growing startup nations, I believe third or second in the world currently. However, and unfortunately, with a disregard for cybersecurity. This notion was also echoed by Mr. Vineet Kumar, who's the founder and president of Cyber Peace Foundations, in a recent interview. So in essence, we are looking at, or rather overlooking, basic practices such as employees losing their devices containing confidential information, leaving workstations unattended, sharing passwords to external sources, using unsecured or public network connections. So again, echoing what Shifa mentioned earlier, and hopefully what the others are going to mention as well later on, is that awareness and training are important. And however, I guess the process has to be from a top-down approach, which means that industry heads and CEOs have to step up and proactively advocate best practices from the top for that particular change to be seen at multiple levels of organizations.
Thank you, ma'am. So I have a small question for you. If we talk about the digital gap, which is a big problem for any particular company, which is on expansion mode. If you go to any rural area, you don't find that kind of equipped employees who have the knowledge, adequate knowledge in the cybersecurity or these kind of issues they don't know, as you spoke about.
Mhm.
Sometimes they do it intentionally, sometimes it happens. So how do you think, as a startup or as a company who is really wants to expand or really want to deal with this kind of things, also balance the things in a proper way? So do you think is it a problem? We can really find an option out of it. We can really untie the Gordian knot. Is it possible?
So if the query is related to providing awareness to those areas where you'd like to perhaps go and start your operations, I feel that first, maybe this may sound counterintuitive to business profit mechanisms, but I think that awareness campaigns would be a very good way to begin. So for example, even before you even plan to go out in those particular regions and maybe assist them to join your company or help them with their startups or even have the digital knowledge or skills in that region, having a CSR model would probably assist. But when you delve deeper into the methodology, because technically we are talking about training in various ways, you're talking about the literacy rate as well. I feel that you could employ different methodologies to cater to those particular stratas of the society. So for example, we're in Calcutta right now, and if I had to go to a remote area of Calcutta, West Bengal, pardon me, and maybe provide an awareness programs, like Shifa was mentioning, poetry and talking in their native language is good, but then again, slowly but surely introducing them to visual aids, then perhaps computer-based applications, and then at their particular level. So it's not like it's all in concept, because when everything is in concept and when you have these campaigns and you have these flags and everything, there exists a real life gap. So providing basic steps, having community outreach programs in partnership with perhaps government agencies. And if your startup or if your organization can afford a CSR model initially before you make inroads into those areas, I feel that would be a more effective way to go and reach out to those populations in the outskirts.
Thank you, ma'am. So do you think cybercrime is still considered as a very urban problem? It's a very urban problem, and taboos are attached to it, that it will not happen to me. If it's something happened to the people who are sitting in the cities, they're doing their business in the cities, it will not come to me until and unless they are affected or they face it directly. People often don't consider it properly, or they don't take it seriously. Do you think it's a problem in India? The mindset, if I talk about the mindset.
Yes, it is, because I think you were mentioning that the two cohorts that are mostly impacted are children and aged population, so that particular range. And like, again, when you're looking at it from a very practical perspective and environmental forces, you have so many people who are over 60s living alone over here. They get calls from banks and everything, and you've got criminals posing as bank managers, and because they don't have that technical literacy, they're prone to perhaps naively provide their details, and one thing leads to the other. So yes, I mean, I'm not saying that it's only possible in urban areas, but I think it's something that the criminals have also identified as a potential target. Even if there's like minimum to low adoption of technology anywhere, there exists an opportunity for compromise or for them to actually get into that field of attack, if you know what I'm trying to say. So even if you have like small technical or technological campaigns in the outskirts, the moment they start adopting technology, even at 20 or 30% levels, there exists a window of opportunity for criminals because it's running parallelly. You know, with digitization comes that threat and comes the opportunity for criminals to exploit, you know, the fast-paced digital divide or inclusiveness, either way.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to invite Khan on this particular point, because you are also coming up with a plethora of products which are already ready to launch. And do you think how do you think before launching into the market, basic challenges that you thought about that? Okay, fine, I'll think about all these things and then I'll launch the product. Because you always say that I'm very sensitive about my products, and before I'll do multiple checks before foraying into the market. Why this? Why do you think? Because these are the real-time challenges which these people are facing. Most of the Indians are facing, even the companies and SMEs. What do you think? What's your take on this?
So, first of all, thank you all of you. But in terms of, as you asked me about this query, that is quite general that every single people thought of, but no one cares about. That's why I felt. So in terms of like when it comes about like what's the difference and why we have come up with the whole ecosystem with the search engine. I mean protecting privacy users, or maybe you can say businesses. The reason behind I came up with all this tech product line, and I always say and suggest all my to use any sort of details, or maybe don't share with anyone. It's maybe your email or passwords, whatever you have, because right now we have a limited you can say like facility because of we are in the beginning right now, what I'm saying. But in terms of, if I talk about like in upcoming future, we're gonna have to change all these aspects, because we do understand about the challenges that we might gonna have to face it if we gonna continue with some other companies that is already providing. Right now we are talking on some other application, what I'm saying, but that's not the right thing to do technically if I talk about. So if I mean precisely with the one-on-one, like how we can protect this whole ecosystem if it comes about the SME or SMB or maybe a large enterprise, then it's all starts from the beginning. Because when you're a small business, you might gonna be using someone's CRM, you might gonna be using someone's facility or maybe workspace that is from somewhere else, that is coming from maybe an organization that is not even caring about much of data privacy a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. And why they don't care, as Miss Aparajita, she already mentioned that, like people don't care that much because they feel like they might gonna have to invest in that kind of scenario. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I felt if we come up with the whole product line, then we might gonna protect more instead of providing them services. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's like, if you see, we have search engine, browser, messenger, we have CRM as well, and SaaS-based products. Because as a user, like if I'm an individual user, am I gonna be searching somewhere, or am I gonna be messaging somewhere, or am I gonna connect in? As a business, I have to run my whole business in terms of like employees, like finances, like employee communication. So this all has to be dealt in a way that we don't have to lose ourselves in terms of data. That's what I'm trying to say. And that can only work when we have that kind of product line that protected beforehand, I would say. That's what I'm trying to say. So for example, like it took me quite a long time to even come up in the market, but like I did the right thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Because if I I might have only one product that might gonna help you to search online or something. But in searching online, and if I tell you like, okay, if you're searching on my product line and you're getting your, privacy impacted in there, that's a lie technically, because you need the whole application. I mean, a whole ecosystem application. When you are jumping from one product to another product or someone else's product, you might gonna have to lose your privacy in there, because someone is taking some kind of permission, someone is taking some kind of permission, and the way we take permissions from you, that is quite something that you can say is negligible. That's what I'm trying to say. And you don't even have to think about like how you're gonna lose data there. Once we are taking some kind of or even any sort of work for your terms, in terms of like personal privacy, as we call it always. So we don't take any sort of personal information that might gonna make you feel like, okay, I might gonna lose if I use any products. So on that point of time, what I felt is like, coming up with the product line that can directly help you, not to even think of cybersecurity. Because what happens, like when people are saying, okay, am I getting a call from banks, or am I getting a call from, any sort of organization, and they are just saying like they want some money or something. On that point of time, why it's happening? Because you're all the information already out there. And once the information is out there, it's really hard to get it back in there, because you are already on the internet. That's what I'm trying to say. So as a founder, I mean, for me to come on social media, it means like in my whole life, I never used social media. It's just like, you can say maybe, like a month or 2 months ago, I started using it, because I felt like this is the time where I have to talk to the people. But I would recommend, when you are using any sort of social media or any sort of like, online application, then you might have to aware of that, what kind of permission you are providing them. And if you are not aware of that permission, then you should just try something that is, because I can't say that you use my application in there instead of using someone else. But I would recommend that if you're using any sort of application, you need to find out like what kind of permission they are taking, in terms of like individual permission, in terms of like business permission. That's what I'm trying to say. Because people call, last time when we had the talk with the that fintech event, you might already remember, yeah. So the same concern was people was talking about, like every single time they are asking for that kind of information that is not even relevant for them. That's what I'm trying to say. Because they're not gonna just use that information to their own businesses. They might gonna start selling it. They might gonna start sharing someone else. So these things has to be cared by a startup or maybe a company beforehand. You even thinking of like you start a company in terms of that. So for me, it's like I came up with the whole ecosystem, so people don't have to jump from one place to another place. And if they're not gonna jump from one place to another place, they don't have to lose their privacy. So that's the reason behind it, I would say. In terms of like businesses, it's the same thing. If I talk about, because businesses is also losing their privacy because they have maybe a bunch of people working for them. So I'm trying to say, and they are taking data from individuals or maybe users, and they are also taking data from their own consultants, as you already understood about that. So in terms of on that point of time, they need to understand like when they are sharing any sort of data from someone, or maybe they are taking any data from somewhere else as well, they have to aware of like they're gonna do all the due diligence before even think of like they're gonna be using or they're gonna be clicking on any sort of links in there. So that's my recommendation. That's the whole point. Yeah.
Thank you, Khan. Thanks for all these wonderful suggestions. I think it will be useful to all of us. So again, I would like to request my colleague Satuki to call the next speaker of the session.
I would now like to move on to Mr. Sumit Cooker, sir, to please share his insights on this topic.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for the invite to this webinar again. So I guess look in brief, Sumit, I'm based here in Sydney, Australia, and I'm the CEO and founder of Aracena. So in essence, what Aracena does is it provides professional upskilling and mentoring services to individuals, organizations, professional associations, and universities. And it's all in the domain of emerging tech. But I guess where we have a bit of difference is we're trying to actually solve the global skills gap So I don't need to keep going on about all that information. I think everyone's well aware that, look, there is definitely a skills gap across the world. And in terms of actually addressing that is to look at emerging tech and the risk element and the security element. So if you think about anything, and for those of you that aren't familiar with the term emerging tech, it's covering anything from cyber, data, AI, ML, cloud, IoT. Pretty much all of that is an umbrella term for emerging technology. And the World Economic Forum has already indicated that by 2025, if we don't do anything, roughly 1 in 3 people across 42 countries would actually just have their jobs lost and they'd be displaced. And currently 87% of executives say that they're facing a skills gap in their company right now. And that's across the entire world. And what we're currently doing right now, only less than a third actually has any form of business impact. So Aracina's vision is this, that if you think about emerging tech, that's the way to go forward. Regardless of whatever you do, you've got to know how to do 3 things. 1, you've got to know how to build the technology. So that's the emerging technology or the underlying technology. 2, you've got to be able to learn how to uphold it, which is your risk management. And 3, you've actually got to be knowing how to secure it, which is your cybersecurity element. So fusing all of those 3 together is pretty much the new programs and new content that we've been developing. And we're doing fast and sharp, really focused on business outcomes and work outcomes so that pretty much all individuals can actually be work ready before they actually go into a job, or if they're in a current role and they want to cross-skill into another role. That's pretty much what Aracina stands for. So that's in a nutshell. And I guess in terms of the topic at hand, look, I think in terms of if I was to just bounce off the ideas of my colleagues, they've covered a lot. So if I start with Ms. Aprajita, thank you for quoting Verizon. I might just fast forward to the next year. 2021 results have come through. So please don't mind if I just add on top of that. But I thought I'd look, if I would, I'm noticing in terms of everyone that's joined the conference as well, you're all based out in India, Singapore, Australia. Everyone's pretty much in the Asia Pacific region. So if we take all the data and we filter it and do some slicing and dicing, and we just extract the APAC region, so Asia Pacific, and we say, okay, what's actually happening there? I thought we might actually go into the concept of why. Like, why are the cybersecurity attacks happening? And why is it important for you to actually be going and taking the necessary steps? So if I told you that you take all the last 12 months, you take all of Asia Pacific, and you take all their data breaches, all their incidents, and you filter them together and you go social engineering, web-based application attacks, and any other errors that Aprajita and Shifa were mentioning as well. If you put everything in that bucket alone constitutes for 98% of all data breaches and incidents across Asia Pacific last 12 months. I'm going to pause there. I want to reiterate that. That's almost the entire, all the data breaches and incidents are just related to that bucket. So if you then try and go down further and you go, okay, what's the data that's actually compromised? You know, is it personal? Is it trade secrets? Or what's actually coming? No, 96% is actually credentials. So it's your usernames, your passwords, your logins, your bank account numbers, your other anything, pretty much any credentials that you're using to log in. 96% of it is all credentials related. And the last thing you need to know is what's the motive? I mean, why bother with it? I mean, before you even think about how do I go about defending it, if I'm running a company, if I'm working for another startup or working even for a big business, why are they actually doing it? Is it espionage? Is it like, you know, is it another country that's actually trying to find anything? Is it other just, you know, I want to do it for fun to see if I can do it? No. So 96% of it, of all of them, actually financially related. Everything comes down to money. Or at least in the past 12 months, that's what the data shows us for Asia Pacific alone. So if you crunch those 3, if we just put those 3 statistics together, let's try and unpack, okay, why is this happening? So now I'd like to try and move on to what Mr. Khan was actually saying in terms of, he mentioned about how startups are actually looking at different web applications. You know, we might actually use a CRM tool. We might use a messenger tool. We might use, other tools to integrate so that we can actually do our business. So why is that actually happening? And think about this. When you're a startup or whether you're an SME, what's important to you? And I want you to reflect on this. Do you need to actually go and be established in a certain market and focus on cash flow? Or are you looking at aggressive growth? Or are you looking at aggressive expansion and fast-paced, fast to market? It's the latter, right? You want to be moving into the market very fast. So if you think about this from and again, I'm going to use a fusion terminology from Aracina's playbook, but if you take cloud and you mix it with the risk management and you look at the cybersecurity element of that, think about your SPI model. Are you using infrastructure as a service, or are you going straight into software as a service or a SaaS model? You're probably going to be using a SaaS model, and you might be thinking, okay, why is that? Well, everything is already done by an outsourced service provider. They're going to provide the CRM tool for you. They're going to provide the chat tool for you. They're going to provide all the integrations for you, and you don't need to be worrying about a thing. You don't need to worry about the coding. It's just off the shelf and I'll take it. And that way I can do my MVP and I can go to market a lot faster. So I'm going to have more elasticity. But what I'm actually sacrificing is the control. And the moment control goes down is when cybersecurity risk goes up. And that's your fundamental takeaway. It's because you are an SME and your startup, and it's the nature of your business that actually dictates the why. It's all coming down to, okay, because you're integrating other products. So now let's go back to the Verizon report. So if everything was actually coming from credentials, right? I don't need to take your credentials. I need to take your CRM's credentials. I need to take your chat credentials. I need to take all your plugins that you're using. I need to look at those credentials. Oh, they're in the cloud. They're not in your control. And I've got you now. So do you notice how I'm painting a bit of a picture for all of you in terms of what the ecosystem is like and how you're in the middle, but it's all third-party supply chain. That's pretty much the crux of everything. So everything, whenever you come down to actually trying to explain why are these happening, look to the data from the data breach, the 2021 the results that have come through. Look to in terms of how you're actually using SaaS applications. If I touch on what Shifa was actually mentioning in terms of the awareness as well, it's a really good point. I mean, what we're seeing here and what we harp on about is that awareness is only the one thing, at least in terms of what we're seeing in Australia and what I'm seeing in sort of Southeast Asia, such as Singapore and Japan as well. They have a grasp on, yeah, we're aware of this. Think about all the employees. Everyone's kind of desensitized now. It's like, don't click on this link, it's a phishing attack. Don't do this, don't take a random call, and don't make sure you're giving out personal details. Don't do this, do that. But everyone's become desensitized to it. And the awareness is just one thing. So if you pick up any assurance framework, if you do any risk maturity analysis, if you do a risk culture assessment, if you do a cyber posture assessment, awareness is your first step. It's the lowest level of maturity. Then you go up in your levels of your learning cycle. Then you move into aligned. Then you go into mature. So when you're starting out, you don't even have that many years in your business to have actually moved up the maturity framework. So that's why you're still going to be looking at what the awareness is. So I guess if you put those three things together, I thought I'd sort of deviate a bit. Looking at the the audience, is everyone familiar with Bollywood?
I think we are, Sumit.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Okay, good. I'm getting a lot of nods. I'm like...
Quite obvious.
I would have been surprised. I mean, that's a punishable offense if everyone said no. But I wanted to think about the movie Bluffmaster. And I'm not referring to the old Shammi Kapoor one. I'm talking about the one with Abhishek Bachchan and Ritesh Deshmukh and Nana Patekar, right? And what do we learn about that? So if I take Shifa's example about how you're training the kids and going from an early age, and the way that the guru or Abhishek Bachchan is training Ritesh Deshmukh to go, okay, well, look at everyone. And again, this goes back to, I guess, our moderator's earlier question as well. Is it that we're all just think it's not going to happen to us? And I think that movie really explains something to us. And what does Abhishek Bachchan say? He goes, look at this city, and he goes, look at that, look at every single person. Har ek insaan koi na koi type ki machli hai, right? Everyone's some sort of fish. right? That means everyone can be spearfished. And if you're looking at a nanoparticle, everyone can be spear whaled. I mean, he's a whale, right? But at the end of the day, if you have anything in your safe that under lock and key, if you have any credentials, passwords, logins, anything, you have money in a bank account, anything related to your business or personal, you are a target. And that's the bottom line. So if you summarize it, think about what it is, the top patterns, 98%, remember in APAC. Think about in terms of the why that's actually happening because of the way you adopt the cloud as a small business, and think about how that actually relates to your maturity frameworks. If you can capture those three things, I think you've got everything down packed. And if that's all you take away from what I've said, that's all you need to work away from. Oh, and of course, Bluffmaster.
Thank you, sir. I have a small question. As you said that it is important to have a self-sufficient ecosystem for the SMEs. It is important rather than depending on somebody or a third party.
Yeah.
If you think about the cost, because most of the SMEs or the startups are bootstrapped, so do you think it's a feasible option, or is it actually going to happen, or we can really create, or the startups can really build something like that, rather not depending on a third party system? So do you think it is possible?
Yeah, look, definitely. I think on a few fronts I can answer that. I think the fact that you're already calling out that a lot of them are bootstrapped. If you're already bootstrapped and you haven't gone down the VC route, or if you haven't gone any of the other ways, the fact that you're actually heavily investing in yourself shows that you can do DIY. So one of the things is just do it yourself. I mean, you can take platforms and you can actually amend them if you're going down that route. The other thing is that you can actually look at, if you talk about the ecosystem as a whole in terms of the environment, the fact that there is a reliance actually shows an opportunity. So think about the startups or anyone that's actually listening into this podcast as well, or this webinar. Think about how many could actually use that as an opportunity to create their own startup and answer that, because I'm sure a lot of startups would want a cost-efficient way to be able to share resources, but do so with a high level of trust and actually have, things like your identity access management and everything all done for you out of the box. And so, yeah, if you look at it in terms of an ecosystem way, yes, the fact that you're already bootstrapped, yeah, you can go down the DIY. Or at the end of the day, it really comes down to risk management. And that's my angle. If you are an SME or a startup, you're going to be in a position where you're still a target. And you might think, look, larger organizations are a target because they're more lucrative. But at the end of the day, smaller ones might have a lower control surface. So at the end of the day, if everyone, how can I put this? If you can take steps to actually put in control measures, so make sure that you can actually back up your data and you're actually making sure that you can create a recovery point objective, to make sure that you've actually got controls in place to secure your credentials, and 3, make sure you're actually patching. Whether you're doing that on a daily basis or whether you're doing that through your host or service provider, it's important that you're doing the due diligence for it. Because in doing so, you're reducing the risk by reducing the likelihood. If it happens, yeah, you're still going to get stung. But if you reduce the likelihood, which is in your control, you can do it. And again, that'd probably be your top 2 pieces of artillery, if I can say, against doing so.
Okay. Thank you. So you spoke about the data backups and using these hardwares to create a shield against the cyber attacks. So if you see this industry, if you get a eagle's view of the industry, then most of the hardwares come from Chinese market. Most of the software industry is dependent on any foreign country. So where is that Atmanirbhar, if you talk about really self-dependent system or creating something like that? Because from the very first day, you're just letting your privacy out. So even if you're a startup, even have this kind of awareness or anything, so do you think is it possible? Or it's a myth?
Look, the thing is, whether it's possible or not, I'm not God, but look, the thing is, what I would suggest at the end of the day, we need to be inspiring the next generation of leaders. And so my advice is definitely strive for it. If you don't do it, you're already compromised. So definitely strive to do it. Hardware is just one point in the process. I mean, you could be using any hardware and it's probably going to be the same element. You could be looking at open source tools as well. There's a lot there on the market that's cost effective. I mean, it pretty much costs, it's very minimal cost apart from the opportunity cost and your own labor. But at the end of the day, what can you actually be doing? Like if you've got that certain hardware, what about if you're hosting something, or if someone else is hosting? That's where you've actually got to be addressing. And I know you mentioned China, but let's go with any country. If it's not your own country, then you've got to be thinking about where is your server located? Where are your databases located? So that's where you've actually got to address sovereign risk. So that in itself, when everyone talks about reputation risk, strategic risk, pretty much at the lower level in the hierarchy or in the taxonomy, you're actually coming down to sovereign risk, data risk, and cyber risk. And all of them three, they converge into your strategic, your operational, and your reputational.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for answering these questions. So again, I would like to request Shatrugni to call the next speaker.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to move on to Sandeep Sengupta, sir, to share his insights on this topic.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. A very good evening to all the panelists. And it's a nice session that is going on. I've been observing, listening to all the panelists. It has already a lot of points has been covered. I will restrict my discussion about digital India because most of you are from India. We have been talking about digital India for quite some time, but I think India got digital only after COVID, not before that. We were taking small steps, but even today, if you think of digital India, we are still taking baby steps. Now, what happened when India actually got digital India, like over the last 2 years, the cybercrime has gone up by 200%. That was the immediate effect of digital India. Now, how this happened, let us understand the problem, because your discussion theme is SME and their how good are they against the cyber attacks. So SMEs are fighting against whom? The SMEs are fighting against the Jamtara gang. They are fighting against the insider attack. They are fighting against the careless employees. And last but not the least, they are fighting against the cyber warfare, because I believe that has already started. There are a lot of nations like I would say state-sponsored terrorists, which has gone very high-tech. And this is also the fourth attack vector, which is against every company, including the SME. Now, suppose if there is an attack, we are talking about digital India. Do we have an ecosystem to protect this SME? Let's see one by one.
Now we have.
Okay, now we have. So let's see.
Sorry about interrupting here, but yeah, I couldn't stop myself because you just directly connected with me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really sorry about that. But now we have, and we started before COVID situation, so that's not my fault as well. You are bringing the cybercrime in your life. That's your fault. If you haven't started the VCrypt, you might haven't got that situation ready in there. You know, so I'm trying to say. So I apologize on there, but we already have it. You know, so I'm trying to say. It's all about like you need to create the awareness. That's what I need technically.
Right. So let us see how much the SME, if suppose there is a cyber attack, where will you go first? If you have a cyber attack, the first people you will contact are the police force, the local police station. Are these people very much equipped with the cyber, like the cybersecurity knowledge? It was not the case at least 1 year back. Even now, if you go to a local police station, like I'm talking about Calcutta, if you go to a local police station, probably the guy will take a lot of time to understand what has happened if there is a complicated attack. Now, suppose the police understand, and then they have to go and do some forensic. Do they have the knowledge of forensic? That is another challenge. How to collect the evidence so that can be proved at the court, or some action can be taken based on that data. So doing a proper forensic investigation is still a challenge for the police department, because not every police officer, definitely not every police station, have a forensic expert at their station, police station. Now, suppose they have collected evidence and they have gone to the court. Does every court, the judge or the jury members, do they understand how this cyber attack has happened, the nitty-gritties of cyber attack? Again, that is a challenge. So when you go to the court, it will become very difficult to make the jury understand that why this is a cyber attack and how the criminals can be penalized. Now, suppose the jury understand that there is a cyber attack and this is definitely a problem. Is there enough cyber law in our country to keep these people behind the bars for a long duration of time? Again, there is a problem. We do not have enough law. Again, I can cite an example. The Indian data protection regulation, the data protection and privacy regulation, which has been in discussion for the last 2 years, it still has not become an act. So just like GDPR, we need a data protection regulation over here, but we have not come to it. So the ecosystem to protect the SME is still not there. And that is why only one or two individuals or one or two companies might not be good enough to keep the entire SME, entire MNC or entire PSU protected. Now, I am part of NASCOM. I head the security forum of NASCOM Eastern India. So and also I am part of the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, West Bengal Government Ministry of IT. So what we have done, though our work is not finished, but what we have done, the first thing we did to tackle this problem, we have started giving first responder training to all the police station. Because when you go and lodge a complaint, you will definitely not go and talk to the officer in charge. You will go and talk to the sub-inspector. And the sub-inspector, with whatever, study, whatever academic background he has come, he is not a cyber expert. So what we have taught these people, we have given 500 junior level police officers in the rank of sub-inspector and inspector how to respond when somebody is coming with a cyber security complaint, that how to identify what type of cyber security attack has happened and how to investigate. Now, even if you are not investigating, how at least take the first complaint. You have to put a general diary or a FIR. So how to write that first complaint. The second thing we have done, we are creating, and when I mean we, it is either Cybersecurity Center of Excellence or NASCOM, and I am from Indian School of Anti-Hacking. So we are giving full support, technical support to both the police department and to the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. So the second thing what we have done, we have given a high-end training to the senior officials. So we have marked some officials in every police station who are cyber security expert, and we are giving them, like these people are BTech, MTech, and we have given them high-end training on VAPT, on how these websites are hacked, if it is hacked, how the firewall log can be analyzed, how the database can be analyzed, and different types of forensic investigation techniques. So we have given high-end training on that. The third training is going to the judicial system. The judges and the jury members need to understand, the lawyers need to understand, almost 90% of the crime is cybercrime. So if the lawyers do not understand, that can be a big challenge. And fourth, we are constantly lobbying for pushing the policies across all over India. That is from the CII, from the FICCI, from the Indian Chamber of Commerce, and from the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. We are trying to push that the laws, like you have a new law on the OTT platform, on the social media platform. We are very recent. I mean, soon you will get a policy on the drones. So these are the where we do not have any policy. So those policies are slowly coming up. Now that is the government part, the police department. one topic that has come up, right from the school children, they are vulnerable. So again, this part, what we have done, we have gone to lot of schools in Kolkata and we have given training to the students from class 3, class 4. Trust me, they are all on the social media. So the class 3, right from class 3, class 4 to class 11, 12, we have tried to set up cyber clubs in the school so that the students get motivated. They get encouraged. It's not a one day that somebody comes and take a workshop and they get very much enthusiastic and then there is nobody to help when there is a second question which comes up. So these students, I can go for a workshop, I can explain them a lot of things, and then they will have several questions where nobody is going to answer them. They don't have any resource who can answer them. So we are trying to do some cybersecurity clubs, like AI clubs in the schools, the top schools, and slowly we will go down to the government schools and the small schools in the outskirts of Calcutta. The third thing that we have done, we have gone to the senior citizens. The senior citizens, we have gone mostly through Rotary Club. So they are the people who has maximum touch with the senior citizens or people who have retired. So we have gone through Rotary and we have taken at least 6 to 7 sessions like that. Even some of them in the senior citizens homes, like there are a lot of homes where these people stay. So we have also gone over there. The fourth thing that we have done, we have, the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, we are creating hackathons, live hackathons. You know why? Because India needs 10 lakh ethical hackers and we have less than 1 lakh. And that is good news for the students because they are getting salary of 2 lakhs per month, even the freshers. But definitely not good news for either the corporate or for our country. So what we need to motivate people. Talent is everywhere. You just need to give them direction. So what we have done, we have taken up hackathons in the tier 1 and the tier 2 cities because the tier 2 cities are the most neglected. So if some people become first, second, third, even last hackathon, we have given cash prize to top 18 winners. So if top 18 winners, they win, they grow with confidence that yes, I am good in cybersecurity. I am recognized. I am awarded. My name is getting highlighted. I get a certificate which I can show to my friends. And I can show to my family. The biggest problem is family. The moment you say I want to be an ethical hacker, the immediate reply is "Aap chor banne ja rahe ho." So you are going to be a thief. So they're going to see that his name is coming up on the television or in some new local newspaper, and then the family will understand that this is something which is a profession which should be encouraged, not discouraged. So that is what we have taken up. We have created up comic books, just like Shikha said, that we have taken up comic books, and that is in Bengali, English, Hindi, and Nepali. Trust me, lot of books are coming out in English, but there are very, very less books in local native language. And even language like Nepali, nobody has thought about it, but these people also deserves that to be without encouragement. They have the talent just like any of us. More than anything else, I would say we need to create role models. We need to create success stories from the youngsters. Because if one person like Ankit Fadia, he came up as a very young person. I don't know where he is right now, but he was a role model for a lot of people that I wanted to be like him. So if we create role models and we highlight them in the television, because we have contacts in the media. I come on the television almost every week. So we have the contacts on the television, we have contacts with the newspapers. So if we can highlight these people, we can take interview of these people, then that will encourage 1,000 others to take up this profession. And then only we can actually fill up that deficit what we are having within this country. Otherwise, if we do not do this, we do not have a chance in future down the line after 5 years or 10 years. The cyber warfare will be so severe. If we really want to remain independent, we need to be improving our cyber hygiene, our cyber security resources, and then only we will become a true digital India, not before that. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have a small question for you. You spoke about multiple aspects which are required at this moment, or multiple type of efforts which are required to, combat cybercrime. But in a country like India, which is run by politicians, how much important do you think the political intention or the positive intention of the politicians, because the system is run, the police, the cops, the lawyers, everything is dependent on them. So do you think the political intention is needed, number one? Number two, media's apathy towards these kind of subjects. Because even in the prime time, we talk about politics, but not about cybersecurity. That comes last. Number two, number three is Bollywood. We spoke about Bollywood, but there are hardly any movies made on these kind of topics. If you check Hollywood, there are multiple movies we can see. That creates a wave of awareness. So do you think, how important do you think these three aspects are at this moment?
So first answer is the political effect. Now politicians, they do not get involved into the Janta day-to-day life. They have their own agenda and they are only restricted to that. So if we come with a good intention, I can tell you I have done lot of events in cybersecurity where we got lot of support. Like I'll give you one example, a live example. Like we have floated a BSc in digital forensics this year, and this BSc digital forensics, when I went to the education ministry, I told the politician, the minister. I will not tell you the name of the minister, because you already know who was the last minister in education ministry in West Bengal. So I went to him and I told him, sir, if you can introduce digital forensics BSc in West Bengal, that will be a milestone for your party. He said, go ahead. You have my full support. And we made it happen. So the way you project it, that how this will help the state, that how it will help the party, there is no reason to believe that they will not support a good intention. Now coming to the second point, can you repeat the second question that you asked?
I spoke about media's apathy. The media should also highlight and come forward.
See, media is something that they always believe in TRP. They also have to survive. I mean, again, as Karan says, it boils down to, and Sumit says, it boils down to money. So there is no money, there is no job, there is no business. Everybody is here to do business. So if the TRP is high, like the best TRP which has been given in India for cybersecurity is from Ankit Fadia. He made it a package. So you have to make it a package. Like last time I went to Shiliguri and we did a hackathon, and there are 180 participants. Every media channel live telecasted it, because we told them that what is the utility, how it is different, how you are going to gain out of it. So you have to make the excitement. Why do you go to the cricket match? You have that excitement. You have to create that hype. We have to do the packaging. Why does football doesn't have that hype? Because you are not being able to package it. So if you do the same packaging for football or hockey as you are doing for cricket, obviously it will also get the same media mileage. That is what we are lacking, and that is where we are trying our best, so that the packaging is there. You cannot just say, I am a geek, I will just sit over here, I will type something on the keyboard and everybody will be interested in that. It doesn't work like that. There has to be some packaging. What was your third question?
I spoke about Bollywood, sir.
Oh, yes.
In entertainment industry. So
Right. So see, the Bollywood, yes, they did some movies on ethical hacking. The last movie that happened, I think, was about war. There was a movie whose name was War, which was a lot of things were mentioned about cybersecurity. So slowly, as the cybersecurity, even I have spoken to some of the major directors. I spoke to Bedobroto Pine, who made Chittagong. So he is my school senior. He called me at his house and he told me, give me some idea so that I can make a movie on the cybersecurity. I spoke to Kamaleshwar Mukherjee. Also, you must be knowing his name. We had a discussion with him. So he also said we are trying to make a movie. So it will come up. I mean, this thing, I'm telling you, for Digital India, we are taking a baby step. So it has not even got adult. So over the years, maybe another 5, not even 5, even 2 years, you will see a lot of movies are coming up, which are about cybersecurity. Because if you have a thriller, if you have a detective story, you cannot do with a crime story without a cybercrime angle. So that realization is coming. They are not getting the right plot. So we are in talk with them. I believe that awareness through movies also come within another 1 year.
Do you think the Bengali audience is ready to listen to this kind of things while going into cinema halls rather than dwelling in culture and heritage, which we love?
No, culture. Yes. That's. I had a discussion today with one of the. I am also part of the Public Relations Society of India. So I was talking to the chairman of Calcutta chapter. So I asked him how we can do the PR for this. Something is PR. It's not only sales and marketing. Everything now boils down to public relation. So if you do a right packaging, everything is sellable. If you think there is no audience, then this whole session that we are doing right now would not have happened, right? So since you know that there is an audience, you are bringing somebody from Sydney, you are bringing somebody, Aparajita, you are bringing Shifa over here. So all of us are chatting over here because I believe that you have an audience for that. So definitely there is an audience, but
so we have to be optimistic about the entire scenario.
We have to improve ourselves and give a full cooked meal to them, not a half cooked meal. We should not try to push down a very badly cooked meal down their throat. So that is where we need to improve. The audience is ready. We are not being able to cater what they need. That is the problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for these optimistic views. I hope people will understand. We will also understand as a society the importance of this subject. So now I would like to tell Shatruki to invite the last speaker of this session.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Rohit Gautam, sir, to share his insights on the topic.
Mute. Thank you so much for sharing this opportunity. I feel really great sharing this panel with wonderful people and a lot of wise people. I got the last opportunity. That means most of the ideas and thoughts are already covered. But I would just like to also discuss about some things that I thought were left out into this discussion. Now, just as we are discussing about small, medium, large enterprises and how cybersecurity is a challenge in our country towards seeing how we also discussed about how COVID-19 and this pandemic has affected us so much. So I think the increase in dependencies on computers and internet for all types of SMEs, regardless of if it's small, medium, or large, everyone understands the fact that they have to provide some sort of security if they want to be successful. Now, this is common sense. Everyone definitely knows that. So I would just like to discuss about what are the challenges, first of all, we are facing. And then I would like to point out some of my views that we can use it as preventions so that can be useful to these organizations. Now, in order to survive the pandemic and to continue the business, definitely many SME sectors had to continue their business activity, so they have adopted to cloud services. As Mr. Sumit Kukar was expressing about how much we are dependent on these third-party services and cloud services, and we be a part of these supply chain attacks, sophisticated. For example, we had the SolarWinds attack, and we couldn't do anything about it. We just be a part of a supply chain attack, and it's basically out of our hands. Contradictorily, he also expressed how we can do a DIY model and build up things on ourselves so that we have the full control of whatever we have in premises or in-house. So regardless to that, any solution that we go ahead with, one very important thing that I would like to mention is cyber resilience. So are we even thinking about security, even if we give our control to cloud service providers or if we do anything in premises? So the fact remains the same, that are we even thinking about the security? So let's say even if we hire the best engineers out there, everyone is aware about how Facebook and Instagram recently had a very big outage. definitely those people out there are super intelligent security engineers, but there was still a misconfiguration. They are not relied on some other cloud services or third-party services, but still the fact remains the same, that are we much cyber resilient? And I definitely cannot guarantee a fact that 100% there would be no cybersecurity breaches. Twitch recently had a very big cybersecurity breach. All its source code is publicly leaked now. Even though they run a bug bounty program, they spend so much in security, and there's so much this also spends so much in bug bounties, but still there was a cyber attack. So we can just try to minimize the risk by giving out our thoughts, as these wise people are giving definitely their thoughts based on their experience and skill sets. And I definitely agree to that. And I work in Hacktify Cybersecurity as a technical instructor. I teach people daily about what are the emerging threats that we come up with, and how can we just try to minimize the risk, even though any organization tries to sell a product saying that this is a magic potion, that if you buy this, definitely you're not going to be vulnerable to any such attack. That is totally an incorrect statement that I would like to say, because organizations cannot predict what is going to happen, because attackers are also proactively trying out things that is already into the market. Okay, we can just try to minimize the risk for some percentage that we could, but definitely we cannot say that we are 100% risk free, or we provide you 100% security. No organization can claim that, definitely. Okay, so coming back to the topic about SMEs as we are discussing, and whoever is watching this amazing discussion and would like to maybe extract some juicy information out of this, would be first talking about the problems. Most of the problems are already discussed, so I would just not repeat those. But definitely in my priority, I believe cybersecurity awareness holds the first rank. If people are not aware about what are the systems, software, services, people they are using, definitely they will be more exposed toward cybersecurity risks and attacks. So first is definitely cybersecurity awareness. I believe in a country like India, there are a lot of people who are coming up with a lot of different ideas, but we do not have a very strong policy or framework in terms of cybersecurity that we can implement in our organizations. This is not just talking in one direction towards startups, but I have seen many good organizations as well. If we just talk about bug bounties, if you guys are aware about what bug bounty is, so if any security researcher or normal person, if he's doing freelancing and identifies an issue in any organization, he reports it ethically without doing any disruptive activities, and then basically expects something back from the organization that could be a possible reward. So this is basically bug bounties. And we have seen that in India, there are not more than 10 organizations who have an active bug bounty program. Although there is a lot of money flowing inside those organizations, but why are they not focusing towards the security perspective of it is the biggest question. Talking about the support from the government, definitely government is putting a lot of focus in cybersecurity. Now we have seen cybersecurity awareness months going on, and all the colleges have turned up and jumped into the cybersecurity awareness seminars. We can see it all over. That's absolutely great. But why do we not have a strong policy or a framework? Although I'm not talking about there are none, there are many ITX, and there are a lot of different things, but it is basically like a RFC to the internet. No one is interested in reading the RFCs and understanding how does a protocol work. So there should be a streamlined approach, which is basically easy to understand for people who are just starting a startup, maybe, as we are talking about startups, because there are rather a lot more complicated things that one has to go through. So why just not we try to maybe dilute the cybersecurity part so people understand it better, although we cannot 100% make it secure. Next is lack of budget. I definitely think that there are many digital India campaigns and Atmanirbhar Bharat campaigns that are promoting aggressively to startups, but I just do not understand the fact that why are we not protecting or trying to put in money in cybersecurity specifically. So we see a lot of government websites itself are still vulnerable. Most important government websites like maybe Passport Seva Kendra or other websites are still potentially vulnerable to a lot of vulnerabilities. Then how can we just basically think about that? Yeah, these startups are going to be more secure. Even when we identify these flaws, we teach students, and when they try to implement whatever they've learned so far in government websites, we see, yeah, there is a very big attack surface which still needs to be fixed or patched. So I think that there is one of the angle that is maybe off budget, because we deal with some government organizations and projects wherein we see there is not a lot of money that is flowing into cybersecurity projects or maybe VAPT projects. I don't know why. What would be the reason? That basically diminishes the fact that good skilled VAPT testers just do not want to put in their time or efforts, maybe because they think we are getting paid very less over here. This is a personal fact that I have seen, and I've shared that. Maybe I'm incorrect to other people who are doing these types of projects, but what I've seen is what I've shared over here. Next is cybersecurity specialist. Although NCRT is promoting actively about cybersecurity in books as well. I have a small sister who's currently in 7th standard, and I could see her curriculum has been updated, and there are so many key term technical jargons like cyber stalking, malwares, sophisticated supply chain attacks, and I was actually surprised to see this. So that's great, but it again boils down to a fact that is only this theoretical knowledge is going to help them. Are we producing cybersecurity specialists? Definitely, there could be a lot of things that we could do into this area. That is, maybe bring professionals from private organizations. So we can try to make a PPP model out of private organizations and use them effectively in building up this ecosystem of government infrastructure and making up more skilled freshers. In our country, what I have seen is connecting with a lot of student base of more than 50,000, they find it really difficult to get into cybersecurity being a fresher. So why just don't we do something so the fresher becomes skilled fresher and they have the correct amount or a set of knowledge so that it can be implemented in any startups if they are going to do, or there could be an effective cybersecurity workforce in our country. So we can take advantage of these people that can collaboratively help the government as well as the private sectors. Again, guidelines. We do not have a strong policy framework that can be implemented directly. If it is there, it is complex. We are not able to basically dilute it so everyone can understand it. Shadow IT. A lot of people do not know or understand bring your own device thing. They connect their own personal computers to organizations' network infrastructure and download movies from torrent. I have seen this in many organizations. Hence, I'm connecting this point to the SMEs discussion over here. They just do not understand. And as Sumit was talking about, that majority of attacks happen due to phishing and social engineering. This is one of the reasons. People just download movies, stuff, and surf internet with their personal computers and then compromise the whole infrastructure. There's lateral movement happening. Important servers gets compromised in this way. And at the end, when we do a root cause analysis, at that time we come to know. So there was an incident similar to this. We identified that a manager inserted a pen drive that he identified into the basement, into the computer, which there was a malware connecting to a CNC server, which did a lateral movement, and it just compromised the whole network. So there's a lack of basic awareness, although we push so much into organizations talking about we are going to do phishing simulations, we are training people, but everything does not proactively is implemented, what I believe. To be honest, low management support. There is a lot of processes which people get involved into, and they basically try to ignore the fact that we should be focusing more towards the end goal, that is security. So people get a lot of caught up in organizations which I have seen. I have worked in corporate as a cybersecurity consultant in ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, IDFC, First Home Finance Bank, and I see a lot of people and my colleagues saying this, that we get a lot of caught up in these processes that we are not effectively able to do our work. Maybe this could be a reason that there are potential breaches in these types of organizations, maybe small, medium, or large. So if we can possibly work on that as well, then it might help. So these are some of the factors that I believe. And talking about we have just talked about the challenges. If we do not talk about the preventions, then definitely it would be like throwing a stone towards someone and not giving them the explanations. So some of the preventions that I would think is a more sophisticated cyber threat landscape, which is simple to understand. Definitely, if you put out something complex, it is not going to help any one of us. A proactive approach, that could be, as Sumit suggested, we can maybe have an in-premises servers. We try to avoid third-party services, but to be honest and frank, we cannot do that 100%. We are so much we rely so much on third-party services. Even to host our application, we rely on a CDN. We cannot do it. At least a startup, a small enterprise could not do it, and they cannot just take the overall costing of the management, logistics, and infrastructure. So a proactive approach would be doing a proper static analysis, dynamic analysis of the applications, having a stringent policy in our organization, and identifying. So this is our threat landscape model. And in case we are not able to 100% give our best towards the security of our organization, what is our disaster recovery plan? What will happen next? So a lot of people don't focus on that, because of which the amount of downtime maybe increases to an organization, because they just panic out and they don't have a good disaster recovery plan. So that will be super useful to startups, just to think a way ahead of what could possibly go wrong. And do we have the effective staff, policy frameworks, or techniques so that what we could implement? Cloud adoption outspaces security. Definitely agree to this fact, but we cannot do anything over here. 70% of the infrastructure servers are running on AWS. It is basically just the global leader of everything right now. And there are a lot of vulnerabilities falling into AWS as well. There are IAM security issues. There are a lot of bypasses. Security researchers do WAF bypass every day, now and then. Definitely, there are a lot of people working over there, very cool minds, thousands of security researchers. But we should keep a proactive approach. Just not think that we are giving all our responsibilities to someone else and going to sleep. Definitely, that is not going to work out. We need to have a proactive approach, and we should have a backup plan of what possibly could go wrong. Phishing, again, we should have regular phishing simulations in organizations, as it is one of the factor which compromises of majority of attacks that is going to happen, which again boils down to the fact that cybersecurity awareness is very important in our country for any type of SMEs or at any position we are sitting in any organization. Last one point that I would like to mention is usage of maybe AI. It is going to definitely help us to reduce security risks, shifting our networks and things to maybe blockchain, because it is immutable. It would be difficult for attackers to basically attack our surface, maybe, so that we are able to reduce at least the risk. We are able to minimize it. But definitely, I'm not saying that we should just rely on something and just go to sleep peacefully. We should have a proactive approach, a cyber resilient approach. So these are some of the points that I believe that definitely should help us.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you for this wonderful, insights that you have given. So I have a small question to you before we end. That is, while imparting, being a mentor, because you have been, doing seminars on this particular subject, you have been mentoring, you have been teaching people on this issue of the cybersecurity. What kind of challenges do you think you face as a mentor? Is it the lack of awareness amongst the participants or the people who are there, whom you want to, teach or impart knowledge about this kind of thing? Or is it the lack of tools which you want to use and make them understand, yes, this is the problem, this is the tools you can use? So what are the basic issues or basic problems you face as a mentor?
Sure. It's a very good question. I am connected to a lot of students, and I generally see this, a fact that is a lack of resources is something that I would like to prioritize first. They are not well equipped with what should they have. So basically talking about, let's say if you are teaching them something technical about, let's say, OWASP or a technical topic, they do not have maybe a good amount of softwares or websites or infrastructure to practice, wherein we see that other nations, the certain department definitely provides a lot of infrastructure for people to practice on and to learn on, and there are a lot of resources which are being provided. So this is the first thing that I see. There is a lack of resources that could be in terms of platform, tools, support, maybe. Next is in India, I don't see that we have a proactive approach in teaching stuff to a lot of youngsters. Yeah, we are now gradually shifting towards this. At least I have seen it and I faced it. We are very conventional towards cybersecurity in our education system. I don't know, maybe I am wrong now, but at least what I have seen, I am connected to a lot of people. I don't see a very proactive approach towards cybersecurity. Yes, there's a conventional approach, and hence there is a reason that there are a lot of people who tries to now bridge this gap because of the fact that education system do not directly teach what is required in industry. So there could be something that government definitely can jump in and so maybe try to solve out this problem, that that is by connecting to maybe leaders of organizations and doing something that helps students to understand this is what actually the industry requires, not what is you are learning. Definitely we learn a lot of things that are very helpful in our life, but something specific to what industry requires, and tools, resources, infrastructure, and maybe financial support. Because a lot of people are not able to do certifications in our country, and they jump onto the internet and they just try to grab things from the ocean. Internet is a very big ocean to learn things, definitely. And I also say that there are a lot of good resources that we can absorb and extract information from. But a newbie or a beginner definitely will get lost into this ocean if he's not guided into a correct direction. So maybe there could be a proper roadmap that is designed maybe by some private organizations or maybe government that helps individual in going towards the right direction, and he knows, oh, this is a roadmap, this is what I need to do, certain activities, and this is what is my end goal, or maybe these are some cybersecurity roles that I will get into after maybe a specific period of time. I see there are a lot of education programs, new BTech, MTech programs that are being launched, which is helping in overcoming the problems that I have said, and that is super efficient. But I again see there should be definitely some free open source resources even out by government in terms of tools, resources, infrastructure, and a financial support would definitely help a lot of beginners over here.
Thank you for this answer. I think it's we have done a lot. Though this is just the beginning, but I think it's a long way to go. But we have started something with the help of F-Scan Robotics. We have started an initiative to aware people. I think people will also join. I would like to again thank all the panelists, the founder of F-Scan Robotics, the Khan, for sharing their precious time with us. So that's all from us today. Thank you all the panelists for coming and joining us. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.